What unfolded in this hearing was more than a clash of personalities. It was a revealing moment about transparency, accountability, and the widening gap between democratic norms and partisan loyalty. When the senator began by asking a simple, straightforward question, whether the Attorney General had been consulted by the White House before National Guard troops were deployed into American cities, he was not fishing for drama. He was asking a question any responsible lawmaker must ask when federal military resources are being directed into states without clear public justification.
What became of the $50,000 in cash that the FBI paid to Mr. Homan in a paper bag, evidently?
Senator, as Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche recently stated, the investigation of Mr. Homan was subjected to a full review by the FBI, agents, and DOJ prosecutors. They found no credible evidence of any wrongdoing.
And that was not my question. My question was, what became of the $50,000 in cash that the FBI delivered, evidently in a paper bag, to Mr. Homan?
Senator, I'd look at your facts.
Are you saying that they did not deliver $50,000 in cash to Mr. Homan?
Senator, as recently stated, the investigation of Mr. Homan was subjected to a full review by the FBI agents, by Department of Justice prosecutors. They found no evidence of wrongdoing.
That's a different question. What became of the $50,000? Did the FBI get it back?
Mr. Whitehouse, excuse me, Senator Whitehouse, you're welcome to talk to the FBI.
The report to you. Can't you answer this question?
Senator Whitehouse, you're welcome to discuss this with Director Patel.
Did Homan keep the $50,000?
As Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche recently stated, the investigation of Mr. Homan
I can see I'm not going to get a straight answer from you to a very simple question.
By the FBI agents and the DOJ. They found no credible evidence of wrongdoing. You know, you're very concerned about money and people taking money, and you rail against dark money. Yet you work with dark money groups all the time, Senator Whitehouse.
Did you know whether or not in that investigation they looked at whether the $50,000 payment to Mr. Homan was declared by him on his tax returns?
Senator, I would be more concerned if I were you when you talk about corruption and money that when you pushed for legislation that would subsidize your wife's company.
The questions here are actually pretty specific. So having you respond with completely irrelevant far-right internet talking points really is not very helpful here. I'd like, Mr. Chairman, you generally like to have us be able to get answers to know, and we'll follow up with the QFR. And to the extent Patel wants to answer, that would be great as well. What happened to the $50,000? Did Homan keep it? Did the FBI get it back? If he kept it, did he put it on his tax returns? Pretty simple questions. Homan was the same guy who said there was a deal with Eric Adams. He said, if Adams doesn't come through, I'll be back. I'll be in his office, up his butt, saying, where the hell is the agreement we came to? Which brings us to the OPR investigation of prosecutorial misconduct by Emil Bovee, because he was also involved in that transaction. Yeah. What became of the OPR investigation of prosecutorial misconduct by Emil Bovee?
Yeah, Senator Whitehouse, to correct you for one moment, that would be the Honorable Judge Emil J. Bovee III to you.
Not at the time of this. He was an employee of the Department of Justice. And what became of the OPR investigation?
It's all pending litigation, Senator. I can't discuss pending litigation nor personnel matters.
OPR customarily publicly says when there's an investigation, and at the end of it, they provide a summary. Why can't you say whether there's an OPR investigation and whether, if it's concluded, there's a summary?
Senator, I'm not going to discuss personnel matters.
Even public ones?
Senator, I'm not going to discuss personnel matters.
So, Kash Patel told this committee that his grand jury testimony after immunization, after initially pleading the Fifth, was, and I quote, sealed by the Department of Justice. How and when and why was his testimony sealed, and by whom?
Senator, I'm not going to discuss any testimony, especially testimony that could be sealed, with you.
No, the question is, was it or was it not sealed?
Senator, I'm not going to discuss that with you.
Well, he also said that he worked with the Department of Justice to have his transcript released publicly. How and when was his transcript released? Presumably, if he released it publicly, that's something you can discuss because it's public.
Well, Senator, I believe you discussed that with Director Patel.
And I'm asking you because he said the Department of Justice made this decision and you run the Department of Justice.
I would refer that to Director Patel.
Even though you run the Department of Justice and he testified that the Department of Justice released his transcript publicly.
If it is released publicly, we will get you a copy, Senator, gladly.
If being a rather important word there, when your FBI director testified that that was a fact. Treasury compiles suspicious activity reports, referred to often as SARs, that DOJ receives automatically. Hundreds related to accounts of Jeffrey Epstein. How many of those Treasury SARs did you or Director Patel investigate?
Senator, I'm not sure if you're concerned because you took money, I believe, did you, from Reid Hoffman, one of Epstein's closest confidants, not only once but twice in 2018 and 2024, if that's correct. But, Senator, did you ask Merrick Garland any of this over the last 4 years when he sat before you? This investigation has been going on. This investigation was closed. Did you ask Alex Acosta that?
And Patel came to office, you said you would look into this. There were hundreds of suspicious activity reports. Some people would deduce from the fact that they are called suspicious activity reports that there might be suspicious activity. And yet you seem to have looked at 0 of those suspicious activity reports involving Jeffrey Epstein accounts. Let me ask you something else. There's been public reporting that Jeffrey Epstein showed people photos of President Trump with half-naked young women. Do you know if the FBI found those photographs in their search of Jeffrey Epstein's safe or premises or otherwise? Have you seen any such thing?
You know, Senator Whitehouse, you sit here and make salacious remarks, once again trying to slander President Trump left and right, when you're the one who was taking money from one of Epstein's closest confidants, I believe, I could be wrong, correct me, Reid Hoffman, who was with Jeffrey Epstein on multiple occasions. And the senator sitting right next to you tried to block the flight logs from being released. Yet you're grilling me on President Trump and some photograph with Epstein? Come on.
The question is, did the FBI find those photographs that have been discussed publicly by a witness who claimed Jeffrey Epstein showed them to him? You don't know anything about that. Okay? Here's what well, no, we cut to something else. The Marshal Service is supposed to protect our federal judges. I have asked repeatedly for the Marshal Service to let me know if they are investigating or being inhibited from investigating whether or not there is orchestration of threats against federal judges, whether under either conspiracy laws or racketeering enterprise laws or aiding and abetting laws, whatever. But as you know, there's the person who says the threat, and then there may very well be somebody orchestrating the threat behind them. Mm-hmm. Is the Marshal Service allowed to investigate orchestration of threats, and do you know if they've taken one step to do so?
May I answer the question, Chairman Grassley? The time has expired.
I think it's the convention of the committee that if I've started my question in my time, you may answer the question.
I was asking the chairman.
Okay, before I go to Cornyn.
She wants to answer the question, Chairman.
Oh, Please go ahead. I thought you said you didn't want to answer it.
Yes,
I'm
sir.
sorry.
Thank you. Senator Whitehouse, I would be happy to sit down with you regarding any threat to any federal judge in this country. We take threats very seriously.
The Attorney General's refusal to answer, even at the most basic level, sent an unmistakable signal. Not only would she not address the decision-making process, she would not even acknowledge whether any consultation took place at all. For a democratically elected body tasked with oversight, that silence is not neutrality. It is obstruction. It deprives the public of knowing who is issuing the orders, what legal rationale they rely upon, and whether federal power is being used to support public safety or score political points. What followed only deepened the concern. Rather than addressing the senator's question about policy or legality, she pivoted into an attack, accusing him of hating the former president, claiming he shut down the government, and insisting that National Guard forces were being deployed to protect a city whose leaders supposedly failed their own citizens. To many observers, this shift was revealing. When an official cannot justify an action on its merits, the fallback becomes distraction, grievance, and personal insult. The senator's response was measured but firm. Having served on the committee for decades, he recognized the pattern. A legitimate question about constitutional authority and military deployment had suddenly transformed into a partisan attack, not because the inquiry was improper, but because it cut too close to the truth. The administration did not want to expose whether military force was being politicized. And this hearing did not stop there. He turned next to the Attorney General's prior testimony about work she had done for the royal family of Qatar. Under ordinary circumstances, this might be an unremarkable line of questioning. But given the recent episode in which President Trump accepted the temporary use of a $400 million luxury jet from that same foreign royal family before its planned permanent transfer to his Presidential Library Foundation, the relevance became unmistakable. The United States Constitution is explicit. No officer of the United States, including the president, may accept gifts from any foreign monarch, prince, or state without congressional approval. This is not a trivial technicality. It was designed by the founders to prevent foreign influence, corruption, and undue dependence on outside power. The senator was right to highlight that this gift, whether labeled temporary or permanent, clearly touches on the constitutional and statutory restrictions Congress enacted to preserve the integrity of the presidency. What viewers should take away from this exchange goes far beyond the specifics of the National Guard or a luxury aircraft. At its core, this hearing exposed a deeper tension in American governance, whether those who occupy positions of immense authority believe themselves accountable to the public and to the law, or whether loyalty to a political figure overrides those obligations. The refusal to answer basic oversight questions, the attempt to turn constitutional concerns into partisan attacks, and the dismissive approach to potential foreign influence are all symptoms of the same underlying problem, an erosion of democratic norms in favor of political convenience. For anyone watching, the lesson is clear. Oversight is not optional. Transparency is not a courtesy. It is a requirement. And when officials resist even the simplest questions, it becomes the responsibility of citizens to pay closer attention, not less. Democracy depends on informed engagement.